to another off-season edition of Fantasy Football Today DFS. My name is Sia Nejad at Sia Nejad, and we are continuing our off-season series highlighting DFS, game theory, strategy, and player analysis. Last week, we had Chris Spags on. Well, this week, we are talking best ball yet again. We're going to do a live best ball draft on Underdog today, right now, and I brought a couple of heavy hitters with me. Let's start with Frank Stampfl. Frank, how is it going?
Oh man, it's going. It's a busy time right now hosting the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast. It's my wedding week, so there's just so much going on. But in the midst of all of that, we're ramping up for football. I'm doing a bunch of best ball drafts right now, and I've got to just thank you, Sia, for the job that you've done over the past couple months hosting this podcast. But if you don't mind, can I intro today's guest? We have a little bit of history together.
Frank, by all means, it's your show right now. Let's go.
All right. What kind of history do we have? Well, we went to high school together. I can tell you that this man hates peanut butter and oranges. One might consider us former best friends forever. You can find his work over at NFL Fantasy and on the NFL Network. You can also listen to him on Rotoballer on Sirius XM Fantasy. He is Michael F. Florio. What is going on, Mikey? How you doing?
I'm so happy to be joining you today, Frank. So much so that I had a dental procedure 2 hours ago. I might sound a little funny as I'm talking, but there was no way I could not come on the show with you today, especially if I could say so, on your wedding week. I have to come do the show.
Wedding week. I appreciate it, buddy. We're going to get it done. We're going to have an awesome draft here. C and I are going to share the team together. So hopefully there's a bunch of fighting and chaos and it'll make for good content. But make sure you follow Mike on Twitter at Michael F. Florio. All right, Sia, take it away. It's yours.
Yeah, so we're going to do a best ball draft. Let me just tell you how it's going to go. You can, of course, watch this on YouTube, or you obviously listen to the podcast as well. But here are the details of the draft. It's a half PPR and SUPERFLEX, which means you have a starting quarterback, but can also have a second QB in your flex spot. The rest of the starting lineup features 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. This is also one of those bigger tournaments where you play the first 14 weeks, and then the playoffs are weeks 15 through 17. We got to pay attention, like we learned last week with Chris Spags, to week 17 in particular. And again, speaking of Chris Spags, if you missed that best ball primer, you can obviously catch that. It was last week's episode, and it's a 20-round draft. It's super flex, so we're going to go a couple extra rounds, 20-round draft, 30-second shot clock, and it should take only 40 to 45 minutes. So lock in with us, and let's see how it all works out.
All right, we're waiting for one more person to join this draft, and then we'll be up and running here again, doing a live draft on Underdog Fantasy. We've done a few of these already too. Full transparency, I have a group chat with a few of my buddies. Florio is part of it, and every couple of days we just join another draft. It's just like we have this endless list of drafts going on right now, best ball leagues. Mike, I'm putting you on the spot. Is there a player, a team that you find yourself gravitating towards most early on here in the best ball draft season?
So in the Superflex or just in best ball?
Yeah, let's go Superflex.
The Chargers are one that I've definitely. You need like a top 2 pick, but I've done 2 Superflex drafts, both with you on Underdog, and the one where I have Herbert, I have Mike Williams. I think I have another Charger, I think so. But yeah, the Chargers to me, I think are going to be one of the best teams in football this year. I love Justin Herbert and all the pieces around him. And they're one of the few teams that every piece is returning from last year. There's so much unknown right now. So I think having some known comfortability with that offense just makes them even more appealing.
All right. Well, the draft is up and running. We made it into the same draft, thankfully, so we don't have to start this thing over. We're 20 seconds away. So see ya.
Let me just say, Frank, I love the Chargers this year too, both from a fantasy and let's say real football standpoint. I think the Bills and the Chargers are likely going to end up being the class of the AFC in terms of, lining up for that AFC championship game. And even I say that in spite of the fact that the AFC is a really, really tough conference relative to the NFC. But I love what the Chargers did, not just with their skill position players, but on the defensive side of the ball and the offensive line as well.
Yeah. And look, Mike hasn't mentioned it yet. I'm sure he will, but he's a Bills fan, so I'm sure he loved hearing you talk glowingly about his Buffalo Bills.
Great team.
Yeah, since I've been saying Chargers Bills AFC Championship game since free agency, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Well, my question is, as the number 1 pick is on the clock, who do you like from the NFC, because I think that's where it gets super interesting as well.
Originally, I was thinking the Rams, but it's Brady's last year. I think the Bucs will find a way to get it done. I mean, they nearly pulled off the huge comeback and beat the Rams last year. So I'm gonna go with it's a little chalky, but Bucs Bills, I think, is gonna be the Super Bowl.
Well, speaking of chalky, we do have, again, this is a super flex, and you can play 2 QBs. So, of course, quarterbacks are going to fly off the board in the first couple of rounds. And, of course, speaking of Michael Florio's Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen is the first overall pick, followed by, as predicted, Justin Herbert, then Patrick Mahomes, then Lamar Jackson. And we've got another team on the clock right now.
Yeah, so 4 picks in, lots of quarterbacks already going here. You'll notice, and we were talking beforehand, the first 2 rounds of these drafts, these super flex best ball drafts, they're typically all quarterbacks. So the draft doesn't actually start until round 3. That's when we start to see more running backs and wide receivers and tight ends go off the board here. But the latest pick, Kyler Murray, so 5 straight quarterbacks to go. And Mike, you are up in 2 picks. You have the 8th pick, and I am drafting at 11. So I'm sure we'll have a few snipe opportunities on each other.
Let me ask you, Michael. So Kyler Murray was the 5th quarterback taken. Where do you sort of have him slotted? And the reason I ask is because we have guys like Jalen Hurts right behind him. Obviously, Tom Brady, Joe Burrow. I can make the argument for Jalen Hurts perhaps ahead of him. Are you in that camp as well?
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is my QB3 actually overall, and Kyler Murray is my QB5. Where my hot take comes in is I have Patrick Mahomes right now at QB6. No disrespect to Patrick Mahomes. He's awesome. But Tyreek Hill, I believe, is the most influential. Oh, I get to pick right now, and I'm going to take Jalen Hurts, who I think could easily be the best quarterback in fantasy this year. But just to finish the Mahomes thought real quick, I think Tyreek Hill is the most non-quarterback influential offensive player in all of football. So losing him, I think, will hurt. And he doesn't run like the other guys in the top 5.
For sure. I like that call quite a bit. I mean, honestly, I've said this on the show a couple times. I could see a scenario where Kansas City misses the playoffs. And I just think Denver is probably a better team than them at this point because they finally stabilized the quarterback position. We know what they have on defense and at the receiver position. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see if sort of that Patrick Mahomes last year, I don't want to say he got figured out, but he certainly got neutralized in a lot of games. And with that in mind, you lose Tyreek Hill. You got Travis Kelce turning 33 years old. What's this going to look like?
Sia, we are on the clock, buddy. And speaking of the AFC West and the Denver Broncos, how about Russell Wilson? Are you good with this? 11th overall?
I'm good with that. Listen, a lot of quarterbacks are off the table here, including Jalen. I think Russell Wilson, with the people he has at his disposal, from Cortland Sutton to Tim Patrick to Jerry Jeudy to KJ Hamler, I think it's a good pick in this spot.
So 9 of the 11 first picks have been quarterbacks, and then at pick 12, Cooper Kupp goes off the board, and we are back on the clock. So Cooper Kupp and Dak Prescott go. So we can either double down on another quarterback here. We could take like a Stafford or Trey Lance, or we could take a big wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. What do you think, Sia?
This is interesting. I kind of want to go Trey Lance here and just kind of go for broke. But I'm going to let you have some impact on this as well.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's have a little fun. So we'll go Trey Lance and Russell Wilson. We're going for the upside here, right? I think Stafford is a fantastic pick still, and gaining Allen Robinson obviously should only help the offense more. But I think Stafford's still going to be great, but there's just that unknown factor. Trey Lance, his ability to rush, massive upside here in best ball. I'm good with it. So let's see where it goes. We've got Trey Lance and Russell Wilson.
And the reality is we were the 11th pick. So when it came back to us, by the time it comes back to us again in the 3rd round, like literally all the quarterbacks will pretty much be gone at that point. So I think it was time to maybe spring, maybe a touch early on Trey Lance. And for the record, it's a Kyle Shanahan offense. We know what he did with RG3. I mean, RG3 has his limitations as well, passing it downfield at times in his career. So I think to the extent Trey Lance has those, Kyle Shanahan will be able to figure that out for him. And we've got Florio, you're on the clock. 8th overall pick. It's back to you in the 2nd round.
Yeah, I really wanted Justin Jefferson there. He goes 1 pick before me. I strongly consider Austin Eckler, but I have a good amount of Eckler already. So I like getting the elite receivers this year, even in a super flex. So I took the 3rd one off the board there with Jamar Chase.
So Jamar Chase is the 3rd receiver off the board after Cooper Kupp, who went with the 12th overall pick, then Justin Jefferson, then Jamar Chase. So I got to ask you, as we wait for the draft to come back to you in the 3rd round, Go ahead and be critical of our Trey Lance pick. How did you feel about that pick? Was it just too early? And should we have taken the value with a Justin Jefferson?
I would have probably taken Justin Jefferson, but if you were to take a quarterback, I mean, Trey Lance has, I don't think enough people realize how much upside Trey Lance has. Like every year since Kyle Shanahan has been in San Francisco, their quarterbacks are either leading the league or top 3 in the league in passing yards that come after the catch, meaning that Trey Lance is going to be asked to do a whole lot. He's going to be asked to get the ball out quickly to Debo, to George Kittle, to Brandon Ayuk, who then are monsters after the catch. Plus, you add in, though, that he can run. He can run as well as like a Jalen Hurts or even Lamar Jackson can. And then you add in that he has a cannon for an arm, too. So it's just more upside than in this offense, too, than we have ever seen under Kyle Shanahan. I think Trey Lance upside is top 5. Maybe it might be crazy to say. I think, though, there's a path for him to be the best quarterback in fantasy.
And for the record, week 17, they do play at Las Vegas, which is not going to be a good defense at the beginning of the year and most likely not at the end of the year either. So it's a nice setup in terms of, projecting over to week 17. And for the record, we did draft Russell Wilson. Week 17, they play at Kansas City. If the weather is decent there, that could be some fireworks as well.
See, how about this? We made a rookie mistake. Of course, I've got to be critical, right? I mean, it's our first draft together. Same bye week. Russell Wilson and Trey Lance, they both have bye week 9.
Oh, that's classic. That is absolutely classic. Well, here's the reality, though. We'll have a third quarterback on our team. We're going to sort of be forced to it. In the SUPERFLEX spot, we don't have to play a second quarterback, every single week. So in that case, we'll just see how our skill position player works out there. So speaking of quarterbacks, we had Derek Carr go after Jamar Chase, then Aaron Rodgers, then Justin Fields, then Kirk Cousins. And then we start to move to some running backs. Eckler and Derrick Henry were off the board in the second round, Travis Kelce. And then in the third round, we're looking like a lot of receivers and a lot of running backs. As Frank sort of predicted, a lot of the quarterbacks fly off the board in the SUPERFLEXes in rounds 1 and 2. And then you start getting into the meat and potatoes of the running backs and the wide receivers. Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce are the 2 tight ends off the board. And we're coming up on Florio's pick. Florio, what are you thinking in terms of how your team is going to look in the third round? What are you looking for here?
I was hoping Dalvin Cook just continued to fall because that seemed like great value. But I'm looking at it. You guys already have 2 quarterbacks. One of the other teams in between me and my next pick already have 2 quarterbacks, and the others each have 1. I think I'm gonna risk it here and not take a quarterback.
All right, what are we doing?
I'm gonna take Mr. Joe Mixon.
Ooh,
I should have taken Joe Burrow if you look at my build right now. Like
Bengals.
I could have had the entire Bengals offense if I wanted it.
That's an awesome pick too. I mean, I would have loved Joe Mixon to make it to us. I think this Bengals team, as great as they were last year, I think that they're going to be even better, man. The improvements to the offensive line, 1 year under his belt for Jamar Chase. Obviously, T. Higgins, awesome. Joe Burrow, 1 year further removed from injury. I think that the Bengals are just going to be awesome this season. And with that, we are on the clock, Sia. So we can...
Well, this is interesting. If you want to stack, we can do it right away here as Deebo Samuel's available. But we got Saquon, we got Leonard Fournette available. There's plenty of Tyreek Hill is available. Feels like Deebo might be the play here, and we just kind of go all in on that stack early.
Let's do it. Let's stack it up. All right, so we've got Deebo Samuel with Trey Lance and Russell Wilson. And hopefully we can snag a Broncos wide receiver later on as well. That would be fun. And at the turn, Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill go off the board. I kind of think that we should grab a running back here. I know that you've talked about the Saquon Barkley bounce back quite a bit. Do you like him more than Leonard Fournette, Nick Chubb, Javonte Williams?
I don't like him better than Leonard Fournette. I especially with so many receivers sort of down and out for the Buccaneers. I think Leonard Fournette's going to get even a larger catching role than he already had. So I think that's the play right there.
All right, so we go with Leonard Fournette, and it's actually a good thing we didn't take Saquon Barkley because each of our first 4 picks would have had a bye week in round 9.
Yes, there you go. There you go. We'd just be conceding that week, essentially. Florio, what did you think of the Leonard Fournette pick?
That's exactly who I would have taken as well. I really am bullish on Saquon Barkley bouncing back this year, but Leonard Fournette is going to get all of the carries there. We know Tom Brady is going to throw a lot to the running back. But I think what people are overlooking a little bit is there was a change in head coach to Todd Bowles, who does like to run the ball. And then I mean, no Godwin to start the year, no Gronk at least to start the year. There's going to be a lot of targets up for grabs.
Speaking of for grabs, Florio, it's on you.
I was going to take my boy here, Kyle Pitts. Frank knows I love him, but I feel like I need that second quarterback. So I think Trevor Lawrence is breaking out this year, so I will gladly take Trevor Lawrence.
So my thought there is Trevor Lawrence will always be overrated versus what we thought he was going to be coming out. But I do like the pick there. And by the way, in week 17, I believe they play the Houston Texans. So that's certainly a nice place to be. So Florio, your team so far, it's Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon. How you feeling?
I'm feeling really good because right now, the way I look at the quarterback position is there's 15. I know there's only 12 technically QB1s, but I think there's 15 that you could be comfortable starting as your QB1 if you put like Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins in that bunch. After that group, Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback I want the most. I think last year was much more about circumstance. Like literally a rookie quarterback has never been put in a worse situation than Trevor Lawrence was put into last season. You get Doug Peterson, who not only is a quarterback groomer, but also runs a pass-heavy offense. They've improved the weapons around him, the line, maybe not as much as we would have liked, but I think Lawrence is going to show us the generational prospect that we thought he could have been last season this year, and I think he also is sneaky value because of what he gives you with his legs.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And right after Trevor Lawrence, Matt Ryan was drafted, then A.J. Brown, and then I believe it would have been our fourth tight end off the board. Frank, you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but Kyle Pitts gets drafted right after that. And then we get Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb goes at 45 overall. Any thoughts there? Frank, I'll kick it to you. It's just such a confusing team to analyze right now. You think that's a little late for Nick Chubb, or did you think that's just about right?
I think that's appropriate in a super flex draft, round 4, going right around Javonte Williams. I still think Javonte Williams probably has more upside, especially with Russell Wilson coming in. Yes, they re-signed Melvin Gordon, but I think this offense could be much, much better for the Denver Broncos this season, especially comparing it to the Cleveland Browns. You mentioned, like, there's so many question marks right now. It seems like somebody between Jacoby Brissett and Baker Mayfield will be the quarterback of that team. I think obviously Baker would be much better for them. This is appropriate value for Nick Chubb. I probably would prefer Javonte over him. And Kyle Pitts, by the way, was the third tight end off the board.
Gotcha. Okay. And it looks like we have some quarterbacks that were just taken as well, including Daniel Jones and James Winston. So there are teams, one in particular, the number 1 pick, who have drafted their third quarterback by the 5th round. So, Florio, I wanted to get your take there. How do you feel about that strategy? You know, are we sort of wasting some skill position there, or because this is super flex, it's okay to take a guy like Jameis Winston there?
I think it's okay when you're in a position like that guy was in, where Daniel Jones is his other QB2. But what I typically like to do is I'll wait. Maybe I shouldn't tell you guys this while we're drafting, but I'll wait and I'll get one of the guys who technically we're not sure if they're going to start yet. Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, because I quickly believe that I think Kenny Pickett's the week 1 starter for the Steelers. I think Ridder, potentially, I don't think he starts week 1, but I don't think it's very long after that we see him taking over for the Falcons.
All right. Very interesting. Speaking of young quarterbacks, Zach Wilson goes, Mac Jones. We are in the middle of the 5th round, and it's coming up on Florio's pick yet again. We know he has 2 QBs, a running back and a receiver. It's on him now. What's the thought process here, Florio?
I have a receiver already. I have a running back. I went with what I think is the best player available. I think that's James Conner. He was top 5 last year. I'm not saying he's going to get you 18 touchdowns again, but I think that with Chase Edmonds gone, we saw what Conner could do down the stretch when he's used in the passing game as well, making all these one-handed grabs and stuff on national TV. So I'm pretty bullish on James Conner. I love getting him as my RB2.
So it's on us, Frank. We got about 25 seconds. Darren Waller is intriguing to me here.
We could go all on San Francisco and take George Kittle.
Oh, interesting.
Or Cortland Sutton if you want him with Russell Wilson.
I'd prefer not Sutton. I'd prefer to go like a wide receiver 2 or 3 for that stack. It's up to you, Kittle or Waller.
I think in a vacuum, I would prefer Kittle. I would prefer Waller, but screw it, man. We're going all San Francisco here. We've got Trey Lance, we've got George Kittle, and we've got Deebo Samuel. If Trey Lance stinks this year, this team will also stink. So
that's fair. So Florida, I wanted to ask you sort of a philosophical question here. And
you're on the clock again.
It's already our pick, so I'll ask after this pick. So what do we have? We have one of each sort of skill position. So let's look at running back and wide receiver here and see where we're at. Zeke is available, man. I think that's pretty good value. We are at pick we're at pick 60 something overall. Yeah, I think it's Zeke, unless you want to take a chance with Breece Hall or Cam Akers.
All right, so I'll go with Zeke there. I don't really have a strong feel. I mean, obviously I'm a Jets fan, so I'm hoping Breece Hall is awesome. And I think he'll get the workload from week 1. I think he probably gets like 15 plus touches right out of the gate. Huge talent there, but still kind of questionable with the Jets offense. And Zeke is in a good spot to bounce back. Hopefully, if he's healthy, I think he could be a steal at his ADP this year.
And especially considering sort of what the best ball format is, he can have a couple duds, but there are going to be games where he just kind of falls into the end zone for 2 or 3 touchdowns and just blows it up for you. So I think because it's best ball, we don't have to worry about when or when not to start him. When's Pollard going to go off? When is he not? I think this is a pretty good format to actually lean on Ezekiel Elliott. But Florio, it is your pick. You got 2 quarterbacks, you got 2 running backs, a wide receiver, and a tight end. You just drafted James Conner, and now you are drafting.
Took the man who got paid today. Scary Terry McLaurin.
Excellent. It's excellent value. It's kind of amazing what he has done from a statistical standpoint with really subpar quarterback play his entire career. And Wentz still could qualify as that subpar play, but I think it's safe to say he's going to throw it down the field a little bit more than, let's say, Alex Smith and Taylor Heineke did over their tenures as the starting quarterbacks for Washington. I did want to ask you, let me get back to my question about just philosophically. Now, we took Kittle and we took Debo with Trey Lance. With that particular offense, have we spread ourselves a little too thin? Like if we're looking at like ahead to like week 17, is it the kind of thing where we should only be maxing out one of those 2 pass catchers because they're going to be pulling points away from each other?
I don't believe so. At least not in a tournament like this. I'm okay doing it. Maybe in a redraft league where you're playing it out each week. I wouldn't love it, but one of them is a tight end, and we know he's a very good tight end. And there's not. I know we could say every year tight end is deeper and it's deeper, but George Kittle is one of the few players that is a legit difference maker at that position. So, and we know Deebo Samuel. Again, he's such a beast with both of these guys with the ball in their hands after the catch. I think there's going to be a lot of design plays for Lance to just quickly get rid of the ball and get it into the hands of those 2 guys. I think there might be some weeks where one is up and one is down, but with this being a best ball and a best ball with a overall tournament, I think going all stacking that offense is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Frank, that's going to be great if we get to week 17, because I mean, the matchup is great at Vegas. I mean, that could be a back and forth where like, honestly, the projected total there could be like 57 by the time we get there. And it wouldn't shock me. That's not going to be the total, but it wouldn't shock me if that game got up super high and that Trey Lance did a lot with his legs and with his arms. So we got some lingering quarterbacks falling off the board. Carson Wentz finally gets drafted at 64, Jared Goff at 68, Davis Mills at 74. Davis Mills has an interesting week 17 matchup with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we're looking at a lot of receivers going off the board. Rashad Bateman, DJ Moore, Gabriel Davis. In the 7th round, Deontay Johnson finally gets drafted, DK Metcalf, Darnell Mooney. And now we're coming up on Michael Florio's pick. He's just coming off Terry McLaurin, James Conner. Where are we going, you think, Michael, here?
To be honest, I don't really love any of the best available coming up in this spot right here, but I don't like the running backs at all. And I think in a round or 2, I'll like the running backs a lot more. I'm going to go with the player that I think is underrated every single year. Give me Brandon Cooks.
I knew you were going to say that. I like that pick. I mean, Frank, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I love it too, especially if you're looking at week 17. He's got Trevor Lawrence on one side. Maybe you pick up a Jags receiver later on, and then you have Brandon Cooks on the bringback too. So if that game manages to shoot out, you have both sides covered there. And absolutely, I mean, Brandon Cooks is undervalued every single year. I love getting him as my wide receiver 2 in these drafts.
Yeah, absolutely. So Frank, it's coming up on our pick. So flash our roster real quick. Let's see. We've got, what are we going for here? You know,
we need wide receivers, man. That's what we need.
Let's go wide receiver then. Godwin, no, obviously.
It's getting a little thin here.
It is getting a little thin. Do we take a chance and wait for our next pick and take J.K. Dobbins, take a chance on that running game? Or did he get drafted?
I think he just
That's
got
a 5
drafted.
seconds.
So I am going to
Amon-Ra St. Brown works. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, he's the best wide receiver available for me. And I know some people are skeptical what he did down the stretch. Can it carry over? Obviously, they drafted Jameson Williams. They still have TJ Hawkinson. There was just so much opportunity late in the year, but I don't think you put up that type of production unless you're a player. Like you're a real player in the league. So I probably like him more as a wide receiver 3, but we need a wide receiver. So
I like that because you remember on our DFS shows last year, I was talking about, it's our pick. So I'll finish this thought in a second. So who do we have? Okay. So we have 2 receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end. Let's see. No to quarterback. So we got either Antonio Gibson, AJ Dillon, can't go Chris Godwin. Amari Cooper's interesting. Devontae Smith, interesting. Anybody you like here? Drake London is there.
Oh man, don't love any of the wide receivers, but I think we just kind of take a shot on Cooper and
week 9 bye.
Hope there's a halfway decent quarterback there. I mean, week 9, we have so many week 9 buys, so
yes, it's okay.
We're probably gonna stay away from week 9 after this, but yeah.
Well, so I have an interesting sort of qualifier there, though. Like if we were to sacrifice 1 week at the expense of having all of our other weeks sort of flush with players that aren't on a bye, I think I might be okay with that. But that's a philosophical question for another day. As we approach Florio, it's about to be your pick. You've got, a pretty even team here with 2 QBs, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 0 tight ends. You just drafted Brandon Cooks. Who you like?
I'm going to go with a stack here. I'm just debating if I want to take Devonta Smith or Dallas Goedert to go with Jalen Hurts. But I think the fact that I need a tight end and tight end is starting to dry up a little bit, I'm going to take Dallas Goedert. But that's only because I have Jalen Hurts there, and I'm getting jealous of you guys having all the stacks.
I like Dallas Goedert a lot, actually, this year across all, league formats. So it's Dallas Goedert, then Antonio Gibson finally gets drafted. And he's certainly in an interesting situation with JD McKissick and Brian Robinson, who are likely to be drafted in this 20-round draft. And Devontae Smith goes the next pick. So the the main Philly receivers, and I include Goddard in that, are off the board. Let me just go back to Brandon Cooks while we wait for round 8 to conclude. It's funny. He's only 28 years old, and I think people think he's a little bit older. A few years back, he had the concussion history. We didn't know if he was going to have a long, sustained career. But speaking of long and sustained, he's got over 1,000 receiving yards in 6 of the last 7 seasons. When he's played with Davis Mills last year, he's got an average of over 9 targets. So that's looking really positive for him. He's certainly the alpha wide receiver on that team. If he stays healthy, he's going to put up big numbers. So I like him both in the best ball and DFS space for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even in redraft leagues, people are not excited about the Texans offense, which I understand, but if there's any player that they're going to force feed touches and catches, it's going to be Brandon Cooks. And I still just don't think that there's anyone else in that offense that's going to step up outside of him. So yeah, I would imagine the targets are still going to be massive once again for Brandon Cooks.
I totally agree. You have Nico Collins, who I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he's like a super great talent. John Mechie coming off the ACL. We don't know when he's going to be super healthy. So we finally have Marcus Mariota going off the board. I believe that team now has 4 quarterbacks.
Yep.
That is the number 1 pick. They took Josh Allen first, and then in the 4th and 5th round, they had quarterbacks, and then they got Marcus Mariota in the 9th. Now, this is SUPERFLEX. Florio, what do we think about having 4 quarterbacks on our team here?
I think it's fine to have 4 quarterbacks in a SUPERFLEX, but not through 9 rounds, especially when you have Josh Allen. Like I said, it was okay to double dip when you're going for that second quarterback and you have Daniel Jones, Jameis Winston. I think both of those guys have upside. I think taking Marcus Mariota in round 9 was a mistake, especially when that team has 1 wide receiver still. And we're talking about how thin receivers getting right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very interesting there. So we have there's some good, pretty good receivers still on the board, namely Russell Gage, Hunter Renfrow. Let's see, Brandon Ayuk is there. There's a guy I really like, and he's on. Let's see, Frank, remind me, is it the Jets or the Giants? Oh, it's the Jets. Well, there's a giant on the board that I think is a giant value. He won me a ton of money and lost me a ton of money at the same time last year. And I'm hoping when it gets to our pick, we're able to snag him. So we got Florio's pick in 1 pick from now. Florio, what are you looking at here?
Well, there's one receiver that I like and I have ranked highly, but then there's one that I really want. And you just scared me. So I'm gonna take that player because I don't think.
Oh gosh, he's gonna take who you want, Sia.
Darn it.
I know.
Darn it.
That is-
Darn it.
You shouldn't have mentioned it.
I might have taken Russell Gage and hoped that Tony fell.
Man.
Well, I'll tell you this: if Russell Gage falls to us, I wouldn't mind that as a pick, considering where that receiver core is.
Russell Gage went as well.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You know what I'm looking at here, Sia, though?
Mhm.
Hunter Renfrow. I know he's not overly exciting, but if we're thinking about stacking week 17,
yeah,
Las Vegas is the other side of that San Francisco matchup. So
I don't mind Hunter Renfrow. I think the upside is as a touch limited because of the presence of Devontae Adams and Darren Waller. But at this point in the draft, we're on pick 101 overall or something like that.
He just went anyways.
Okay.
Forget it.
Every guy, they must be watching this show.
Brandon Ayuk is there if you guys want to just go all.
Oh my, that's so many 49ers. Jeez.
Yeah, it might be too many.
Tyler Lockett. I know the quarterback situation is a mess, but
I prefer Christian Kirk here, to be honest with you. I mean, again, we're getting a piece of that Houston-Jacksonville game.
All right,
and they paid him a ton of money. They're going to try to feature him. So I think I like Christian Kirk there.
All right. I have not drafted any Christian Kirk so far this offseason. So, hey, you talked me into it.
Let's see what the running back room looks like as we wait for our next pick. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it's our pick. Ken Walker. I mean, obviously Rashad Penny is the guy. It doesn't look like Chris Carson's going to come back. I hope he does, but it doesn't look like he will. Do we go with Ken Walker here and just play the upside?
This is one of the great debates right now on fantasy Twitter, right? Is which Seahawks running back do you take? They've invested a little bit in both, right? But Ken Walker's the fresh face. Is that who you want?
I think let's go with Ken Walker. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Mike might feel differently about it, but it's an interesting conversation. Ken Walker versus Rashad Penny.
Well, we can also kind of bank on the injury history of Penny there. But Florio, do you like Penny more than Ken Walker at this point?
Oh yeah, I'm very bullish on Rashad Penny. He was and it wasn't even close. Like he was the best running back in football the final 6 weeks. He had over 200 more yards than any other running back. He led them in touches, yards after contact, rushes reaching 15 plus miles per hour. And he more than doubled every other player in rushing yards over expectation. Plus injury, like you get that injury discount already baked into his ADP. So as I'm talking him up,
that's true.
I'm going to draft Rashad Penny there. He is my most drafted running back this offseason. I have him as an RB3 in so many leagues.
Gotcha. Okay. So Penny goes on Florio's team, and we are now looking at some tight ends coming off the board. Zach Ertz, I think that's pretty good value at tight end. He'll probably get peppered with a lot of targets, particularly early in the season. I mean, this receiver core is just a lot different. It's just weird. We have, no DeAndre Hopkins. AJ Green is starting to get really old. And then, obviously Marquise Brown is the leader in the clubhouse there. But Florio, any thoughts on who might be the wide receiver 2 coming out of the first 6 weeks in Arizona?
So you said, well, I was going to say, I think it's going to be Zach Ertz behind Marquise Brown, but for wide receiver, I think Rondell Moore, AJ Green will still get he'll be the outside guy opposite of Marquise Brown, but he's, like you said, he's looking real old, and Rondell Moore is explosive, and they could use him close to the line of scrimmage. So I think that's something that is appealing to them. Last year, his air yards per target was legitimately like 1.5. They needs to go up a little bit, but they like to get the ball out quickly into his hands.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are, what round are we in? So we are in the 11th round, correct? Or we're finishing up the 10th round. Chase Claypool just went off the board after Garrett Wilson, and we're about to hit the 11th round. And I'll tell you what, we are going to start the 11th round, but first we're going to hear a message from our partners. And we are back. We are starting the 11th round, and the last person off the board was Cordarrelle Patterson. We have 10 rounds to go. We just did the first 10 rounds in about 25 to 30 minutes. So we probably got another 20 minutes, 25 minutes at the most to finish this up. This will be really interesting to see how, especially our teams, Florio and Frank and I, how we sort of try to correlate our players and who we see as value late in the draft. There are some big names that are still on the board. Very interesting to see, guys like Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson still available at quarterback, but we know sort of why that is the case. So I think most people have sort of moved on past most of the quarterbacks, other than the ones Florio mentioned, that, the rookie guys that might come in and take over. Kenny Pickett has already been drafted, but there are some rookie quarterbacks that are still available. It's coming up on your pick, Florio. We've got Mitchell Trubisky and Jacoby Brissett just went off the board. Ramondre Stevenson. What are you looking at to sort of round out for your 11th pick?
I'm thinking I need to get a third quarterback while you could still get some, especially just to hedge my bet a little bit, because Trevor Lawrence last year was a massive disappointment. While I expect better days, much better days ahead this year, I think I need to get that third quarterback. And you mentioned the guy that I'm hoping makes it to me, but we still got 2 picks to go.
And which guy is that?
Baker Mayfield. I think Baker
okay.
Mayfield is going to be starting for either the Panthers or the Seahawks. I'm starting to think more and more that it's going to be the Seattle Seahawks. The Browns have made it known that they're willing to eat half his salary. I think it's just a matter of when, not if. He said today in his camp, he said, I'm going to move on from the Browns. So I still expect him to get traded, and he made it to me. So Baker as a third quarterback, if he is a starter, I think that obviously if he gets traded and is Seattle starter, he's going to go much earlier than this. So just kind of taking a bet there and hoping it works out.
Please,
Absolutely.
for the sake of DJ Moore and DK Metcalf, please, Baker Mayfield, go to one of those teams, because we need it. We need it.
That's true. That really is true. That's such an indictment on the present quarterbacks on both of those teams, but it's absolutely true. As it is our pick. What are we thinking here, Frank?
All right, Sia. I know it's by week 9, but Tim Patrick, I think, is like the forgotten man in Denver. And
Agree.
I think that he is very solid, and especially in best ball with Russell Wilson as one of our quarterbacks.
The only counterpoint would be Chase Edmonds. I like him as well. We might be able to get Tim Patrick on the way back. I think Chase Edmonds could be the starter for an explosive offense.
All right. Don't have to talk me into it. I was texting Florio earlier today, and I said, I just keep winding up with Chase Edmonds. It feels like nobody else wants him. And a lot of times it's as my RB3, but yeah, I mean, Zeke is our RB2. We kind of, you know what just happens here?
No way. Tim Patrick gets taken.
Tim Patrick just went.
Florio, are you controlling Jake B77's account?
I'm secretly in here with a
rude.
couple of different usernames.
Gosh, that's
Rondell Moore is interesting. I see Christian Watson is interesting. Jarvis Landry. What do we got?
oh snap!
Watson?
Timeout. What do we get?
Who did we get?
Oh,
who did they give us?
Geez. Oh,
No, really?
what
oh
a
my
disaster!
That is
30-second clock
good.
goes fast. We got Deshaun
Well,
Watson. Not great.
We got Deshaun Watson. Disclaimer there. That was the only auto draft of our picks here. So
he fits the theme by week 9. So
yes, indeed. Indeed.
Not great there. But you know what? Tim Patrick threw us off. So we blame you, Jake B77.
That's right. That's right. So who was our first pick before that? We had before the Tim Patrick got stolen from us. We had
Chase Edmonds.
Oh, Chase Edmonds. Okay. Florio, quick question there. So if you're drafting Chase Edmonds, and I think Chris Spags sort of addressed this maybe last week, but do you take a chance on like the RB2 on that team and just hope in best ball, I'm saying, and just hope one of them work out? Like, for example, Raheem Mostert, if he stays healthy and Chase Edmonds just doesn't pan out, is that a guy? I'm curious if you're even looking at him at all in the late rounds, but for our purposes as Chase Edmonds drafters, do you like the possibility of taking him as well?
Only because of how cheap he is right now, and I think everything always comes down to cost. If he starts to get pulled up the board and then you have to invest like, a closer pick to where you guys got Edmonds, then I'm out on that. But right now, I mean, you could get the whole Miami backfield as backup running backs right now. And well, I know we're all worried that it's going to be a mess, because it probably will be. Chase Edmonds is getting paid more than all the other running backs combined. So if there's one player to take a bet on in that backfield, it's Chase Edmonds.
And to further that point, Miami just doesn't spend money on running backs. I mean, the last couple of years, it's been 6-round picks and undrafted free agents that have been featured in their backfield. So the idea that they're actually shelving out some money for a running back probably means what you think it means. And that means he's going to get the first crack at it, and he'll probably have a long leash, in my opinion. All right. So We are in the beginning of the 13th round. It's about to come up on Florio again. Jarvis Landry, Darrell Henderson, Jamison Crowder off the board. That's an interesting one. After your in our pick, I'd like to get your opinion, Florio, on Jamison Crowder as it relates to like Gabriel Davis. Like, kind of what do you think the pecking order is there for your team, the Buffalo Bills? But you're about to be on the clock. Another tight end just went off the board. Interestingly enough, Robert Tonyan. That's an interesting pick there. What are you looking at coming up here, Florio?
I'm going to grab a running back, and I'm going to be the guy that names names. The top 4 running backs in right now in ADP are all appealing in their own right. Like I'm very bullish on Isaiah Spiller. Ronald Jones, I think, could have a lot of upside, but I'm going to go for broke here. I'm going to take Dameon Pierce, who I think could potentially see over 200 touches as a rookie just because his competition there is Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, I like the Pierce call a lot because if it works out, it's going to take you to the moon, and that's what you're looking for in all drafts, but in best ball as well, of course. So it's coming up on us. Jahan Dotson, what are you thinking here, Frank?
Man, we need some wide receivers. So there's Jacoby Myers, Dotson, Devontae Parker, Jalen Tolbert getting some buzz.
Yeah, I mean, I like Dotson.
I'm good with it. I like him too. I draft him quite a bit as like my wide receiver 5 or 6.
They put a lot of capital into him, and he's really been flashing. I mean, granted, it's early, but he's really been flashing in minicamp. Like you'd think if you watched him at Penn State, I mean, he's a really talented guy, and I think that's a really good pick this late in the draft.
Are there any quarterbacks that we want to speculate on? A Darnold or a Drew Lock, maybe? Because technically we only have 2, even though we have a wasted pick on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Sam Darnold. So, I mean, obviously, if Baker doesn't go to Carolina, it is Sam Darnold's job. Drew Lock, it's his job too. If so you're playing sort of the Baker Mayfield card there. Either way, with those 2 guys, it's a good question. Go back to quarterback real quick. Yeah, Matt Corral. I don't see it there. That's a tough. I don't think Malik Willis is going to play this year unless there's an injury to Ryan Tannehill.
Let's go.
Go ahead.
Let's go Darnold. Let's hope that Baker goes to Seattle and we'll have Darnold as our QB3. He'll be our only quarterback in week 9, so hopefully he makes it that far.
I mean, if Drew Lock hangs around for another few rounds, I don't hate taking Drew Lock as well and just having and just figuring out which one of those guys we're going to play. But
gosh,
Florio,
I will never forgive this Jake guy, man. He messed everything.
He really turned it around on us. He really got us good. My bad. Here's the reality. If we had taken Tim Patrick, Chase Edmonds would have been gone. I thought there was more, it was more realistic to wait on Tim Patrick. But Florio, it's on you. You've got 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 5 wide receivers, 1 tight end. We're in round 14. Where are you looking?
I'm debating 2 receivers here. I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to go Jalen Tolbert. Frank mentioned his name. I don't think we're going to see Michael Gallup till like November, December this year. So someone's going to have to step up. They lost Cedric Wilson as well there. So I think Tolbert could be in store for a lot of volume, even as a rookie.
Yeah, I like it. And it's a good offense to be on, that's for sure. So Jalen Tolbert goes. Hunter Henry goes after that. So let's look at Florio's roster here, Frank. Let's see. Florio, have you done any sort of like, I know we've done a little bit of correlating with your roster so far, but how are we looking? Where are the weak spots?
I feel like tight end, even though I have Dallas Goedert there, I don't love Dallas Goedert as much as other people do this year. Like he wasn't even my highest ranked tight end. I just took him to fit that Philly stack there. I liked my receivers at that point, so I decided to go tight end over Devonta Smith. But I just have volume concerns. Like I think AJ Brown is going to dominate targets, and then I don't think Jalen Reagor or Watkins or any of those guys are going to be fantasy relevant, but they're going to take real life targets away, and Kenny Gainwell is going to be involved in the passing game. So I just think it could be a very week to week battle to be fantasy relevant for Goddard and Smith in an offense that I know everyone likes to point to. Look what they did in the first 6 weeks of the season. But when they started running the ball is when they started winning games. And Jalen Hurts is such an elite athlete that I still don't think they're going to fully lean into the pass. I think it'll be a very hybrid type of offense. So week to week, Dallas Goedert might struggle.
And let me ask you one follow-up question as we're about to peek into round 15. KJ Osborne, the last pick of round 14, after Gerald Everett, who I think is an interesting pick at 167 overall, now formerly with the Seattle Seahawks, now with the Los Angeles Chargers in a great offense. So when we unfortunately got Deshaun Watson auto drafted for us, we were considering Christian Watson, I believe. Obviously, rookie wide receiver, D1 AA for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. What are your thoughts on him? Like, should we have taken him there given what was available? And do you sort of like him this year? Or are you avoiding all of those receivers, at this point?
I don't feel great about any of the Packers receivers. Allen Lazard is the one that I have the highest ranked, but look, you could call me out if this doesn't happen. I continue to think that Julio Jones is going to end, or Will Fuller, like one of those two who are just sitting out there right now on as free agents. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if the Green Bay Packers went out and brought in one of those guys, because I mean, Aaron Rodgers is making it sound like this could potentially be his last year. And I know their defense is stacked. They got a great running game, a good coach, good quarterback. At some point, the missing piece is the receiver, right? So you want to put as much talent around Rodgers as you possibly can. So I continue to kind of hedge my bet. I could look very foolish because these guys could go off if they don't bring anyone in, but I haven't really been bullish on any of the Packers receivers.
Fair enough. Yeah, and I agree with you that Allen Lazard would be the guy to kind of jump out from a value standpoint. So, Florio, you're about to be on the clock. You just took Jalen Tolbert for Dallas. Right before that, you got Dameon Pierce for the Houston Texans with no competition. Now you've got 25 seconds left. Who are you looking at here?
I got sniped. I was going to take Kenny Gainwell right there. Get that Philly stack going. You know what? I need a tight end. I want to get a little stack going. I'm going to take a guy that I think is underrated in Evan Ingram.
Yeah. You'd almost have to call him underrated. We know how talented he is. It's so weird with Evan Ingram. It almost feels like a focus problem with him game to game, where he's just not all dialed in for whatever reason. But yeah, a new scenery, new coaching staff, new quarterback. That could be all that Evan Ingram needs. I think that's excellent value that late. Frank, what are your thoughts on Evan Ingram? Being a New York guy, you got to have an opinion on him.
Oh, I think that he doesn't know how to catch the ball, so he's got to focus a little bit more.
Yes.
But look, they paid him. I think he's going to have opportunity. They need someone to step up as like that main pass catcher. Hopefully it's Christian Kirk for us, but maybe that 1B will be Evan Ingram. We're on the clock, Sia. Do you want to go with Drew Lock, or we could snag KJ Hamler?
Let's take Hamler. I like the Hamler pick.
Sweet.
I think he could really break out. We don't exactly know what's going to be going on with this receiver core. We know there's 4 great weapons. We know Hamler's coming off of a bad injury, but it wouldn't shock me if he plays the Tyler Lockett role to some degree coming into this season.
I think that's a great pick for you guys.
Yep. I know he's coming back off of injury, but yeah, I wanted to get at least one wide receiver with Russell Wilson with the Denver Broncos. So hopefully KJ Hamler can carve out a role. And now we got to decide if we do want to select Drew Lock. We'd have 5 quarterbacks on our team. I don't know if I want to do that. But.
Yeah, I don't think we have. Let's see what receivers are there any Kansas City Chiefs receivers left if we want to do that Denver stack with Kansas City on the way back. I mean, obviously Juju, I believe he went.
Yeah. Juju's gone.
There's nobody.
Sky Moore is gone.
Yeah, of course.
I think they're all gone. Mecole Hardman's gone.
Fair enough. Okay, so what do we like here? Any running backs available as we count down to 10 seconds?
We could snag a backup tight end, Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
All right, I'll snag a little Noah Fant here.
Okay. Florio, what do you think about?
If you get Drew Lock, that's another stack right there for you guys.
That's true. That's true. Any thoughts on some of these? So you Noah Fant, like in sort of a new situation, we know he's talented. The Seattle team's going to be really hard to figure out at the quarterback position. Any thoughts on Noah Fant late in drafts?
I really haven't been targeted. Like, I'll take David, and I know that these guys weren't there for you guys, but like Njoku, Evan Ingram are more the tight end that I've been targeting, just because I think Seattle's going to be a very run-heavy offense.
Yeah.
And they have 2 big targets ahead of him already. So
the target is on you, Florio. You got 20 seconds to pick. You just picked Evan Ingram. Where are you looking? And I see it. Go ahead and announce your pick.
George Pickens, who is going rounds later than Chase Claypool, and I get it. Chase Claypool's a known commodity. They made Chase Claypool walk out to the podium and announce the George Pickens pick on draft night. And I joked, man, they really made Chase Claypool go out and announce his replacement. I think George Pickens is that good. I think he could easily become the number 2 wide receiver for the Steelers.
Yeah, I could see it. And I mean, the reality with Claypool is he's extremely athletic. He's just not super polished. And Pickens could very easily step in and just be the more technical guy that commands the targets from, whether that's Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. So after Pickens, we got Alec Pierce, who was a guy I think we were both considering, Frank. Then Sammy Watkins goes. He's just always going to be an enigma for everybody in the fantasy football world. Hayden Hurst goes. That was the other tight end we were considering with Noah Fant. Looking back, I probably do like Hayden Hurst more than I like Noah Fant, but that's a tough one. JD McKissic going this late is interesting. No, we're at 189. Florio, is this too late for JD McKissic?
Yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself now because I thought I'll wait one more round and get JD McKissic next round and get Pickens here, but I probably should have went the other way around. It's way too late. McKissic's going to be out there on third down, 2-minute drills. They might, and we saw last year, like when he gets them down the field in that 2-minute drill, it's not like they're pulling him off the field. They'll let him punch it in at times too. So for some reason, like him, Naheem Hines, these pass catching backs, Kenny Gainwell, another one, they're just getting overlooked in this format.
And I think they're better technically in best ball, right? Because on a weekly basis, you probably don't feel great about throwing those guys in your lineup, but when they do have those big games, you just reap the rewards in best ball.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's if JD McKissic went 20 picks earlier, maybe 30 picks earlier, I would have been like, well, that's probably a little too early because we can't forget about Brian Robinson either. We don't exactly know what his impact is going to be, but it's likely going to impact Gibson more than it is JD McKissic, in my opinion. So the flyer on McKissic at pick 189 is pretty great. So we're starting out round 17. AJ Green, Paris Campbell, Brevin Jordan, tight end for Houston. And Florio, it's about to be back to you. You only have 4 picks left. Who are you eyeing coming into round 17?
I kind of told on myself earlier, but there's 2 unsigned wide receivers that I don't think are going to be unsigned come the season. So those I have to decide now which one of the 2 I would like to take first.
I have a take here, but I'm going to wait for you to pick, and then I'm going to give my take.
Yeah, and then we can get the other one, Sia. Hopefully it's the one.
Yes. Well, Frank, I want your take first, actually, after he picks. I'm positive he's going to pick the wrong one here. I'm like, this is a surefire. This is a poker move. This might be some reverse psychology going on, but Florio doesn't know. Who do you take?
I picked.
Oh, interesting. So the reason I like Julio, so I actually think Julio is going to end up with the Buccaneers. So that's kind of why I like Julio Jones quite a bit. I heard from somebody who is in the NFL, or at least was last year, that he might be in Tom Brady's DMs, but I can't actually verify that. It's secondhand information, but it would certainly make sense for that to be the case. Okay, Frank, it's on us. We got 4 QBs, we got 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 4 picks left. What are we going with here?
I kind of like taking Will Fuller and hoping he winds up somewhere with an opportunity and he's healthy. But what do you think?
David Bell is interesting. Quarterback situation is really tough there. I don't know. Wan'Dale Robinson is interesting. I think maybe going with one of those young receivers makes sense. Oh, we went with Will Fuller. Okay, that's good. That's good because we have a pick and a few picks anyway.
Yeah. We had like 3 seconds left. But if you want to snag one of those, David Bell or Robinson, we could do that as well. Mark Ingram is kind of interesting because if Kamara gets suspended 6 games, I'm sure they'll bring somebody else in. But Ingram will probably be, 12 to 15 touches.
Really good point.
Yeah, I don't mind the Mark Ingram pick at all.
So we could go Ingram for running back, or we could take David Bell. I don't mind Bell. I think he's kind of interesting too. But then we'd have him and Cooper. I don't know if we want. Oh well, he just got taken anyway. So
for the record, taking a shot at Zamir White also makes sense. But in this round, maybe you take the shot on Mark Ingram.
Yeah, let's.
Does this guy Jake have this feed going or something? Because the 2 receivers that you guys said.
I'm pretty sure that it's actually Sia drafting on the side.
Oh my God, that's amazing. He literally is snagging all of our guys, to your point.
He's like outside one of your guys' window listening to what you guys are saying and just
wow. Is incredible. Great minds. Jake from State Farm. Good stuff coming out of him. All right, so Florio, it's back to you. I have 3 picks left. You just got a couple receivers in Pickens and Julio Jones, and now you take.
Listen, I am team Christian McCaffrey, top 5 pick overall, but 18th round, I'll hedge that bet with Dante Foreman, especially because the one concern I have about Christian McCaffrey isn't health. It's about Foreman stealing those goal line carries away. So if that ends up coming to fruition in the 18th round, I think Foreman could have some standalone value.
Absolutely. I like that pick. Logan Thomas went really late. Listen, I know he has injury concerns, but if he's healthy this year, I think Logan Thomas is going to have a great season. The fact that he goes in the 18th round at 210 overall is a bit of a surprise to me. Malik Willis goes after that. I think that's a good upside play. Listen, if Tannehill falls flat on his face, which I don't think will happen necessarily, but Tannehill doesn't exactly have a lot of receivers at his disposal this year, and it's possible if things go really bad for the Tennessee Titans that they just trot out Malik Willis at the end of the season and see what they have in him, like a lot of teams do when they're down and out. I'm not saying Tennessee is going to lose a ton of games, but that's certainly within the range of possibility. So if that's the case, all of a sudden you have Malik Willis who can use his arm and his legs, down the stretch of the season. So that pick makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just don't depend on Ryan Tannehill to help Malik Willis out and teach him anything.
Yes. Can I say just a quick point on that? I met Ryan Tannehill a few weeks back. Super nice guy. The problem with Ryan Tannehill is he just told the truth. He should have given like the stock answer to that question, and He decided to give like his real answer, which I think is what most quarterbacks in his position would be thinking. But I just want to put it on the record. It's not a name drop that Ryan Tannehill happens to be a very nice human being. So just putting that out there. All right. Speaking of QBs, we're looking at by the way, if you're not watching this on YouTube, it's fine. If you're listening to the podcast, that's great. But if you haven't done Best Ball, there's 2 things you need to do. You need to listen to our Best Ball primer with Chris Spags last week. It was the last Fantasy Football Today DFS show that we did. It was last Tuesday. And you need to be watching this on YouTube, because if you don't really know what Best Ball is, you never heard of Underdog, you never, downloaded the app, or you never been on DraftKings to do Best Ball, whatever format you prefer. It's the interface is very easy. And this is a very good way, the way it's being presented on YouTube. And we have Frank sort of toggling back and forth, between picks and things of that nature. You'll find that it's really easy to filter and play. And I highly encourage people that are listening that they're not sure, if they want to get involved to actually watch this to see how easy it is. And Zamir White goes off the board. I think that's a great pick there. Second to last round. Sony Michel goes off the board right after that. So we talked about the running back carousel. So obviously third in line behind Mostert and Chase Edmonds would be Sony Michel. So I don't mind taking the shot there. I love Chris Evans next. Chris Evans at 221 overall. If Mixon goes down, Florio, I got to think it's not Samaje Perine just getting all the work. I got to think Chris Evans is going to be a big part of that game plan.
Especially in the passing game, I think. And then Dobbs goes next. I like that pick as a rookie dart throw. I'm on the clock now though, guys. Ooh.
Oh, he's struggling. You can tell. There's a lot of consternation if you're watching.
The running back position has been cleaned out this round, but I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I've been of the thinking that we could see Kareem Hunt moved. This is the final year of his contract. They brought back, they tendered Dearness Johnson. I don't think they want to be paying 3 running backs. I think potentially we could see Kareem, especially because the Browns have traded away all their draft picks, so any draft capital they could get back only helps them. So I took Dearness Johnson there in the hopes that they move Kareem Hunt.
All right. We are on the clock.
So we're looking for potential here, obviously. Zay Jones, Brian Edwards, Byron Pringle would maybe be the wide receiver 2 in Chicago. I'm going to let you, it's hard, so I'm going to make you make the pick, Frank, because I don't want to get blamed for this.
Yeah, Byron Pringle, I think, is a fine pick. I've drafted him very late in a lot of these drafts, hoping he winds up as the
a good pick.
Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for Justin Fields. If Fields takes that next step, then potentially some value there for Byron Pringle.
All right.
And we are back up.
So what? Okay. Hassan Haskins. That's interesting. What do you think here?
I've been drafting Haskins only because Chris Spags brought him up last week as just like a late round running back flyer.
I think that's what we should do. I think it makes sense. Like Derrick Henry, isn't going to last forever. And Haskins could absolutely step in here and be that go-to guy. What are your thoughts, Florio, on Hakeem Haskins? Hassan,
I think at this point he's a strong pick there. I agree with you guys. Again, this is a hot take, but I've been on the side of I think Derrick Henry's a bigger injury risk than Christian McCaffrey at this point. Like he's coming off of a severe foot injury where he had to have surgery. He's 2 years older. He has over 500 more career touches. And that's just in the NFL. Like this guy's been legitimately carrying offenses. Like his high school numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the wheels are going to fall off at some point.
I hear you. I mean, and that's why you're going to see in redraft leagues, best ball, like you're going to see Derrick Henry drop to places where you're going to be surprised. But it does make sense. Listen, he has the upside to really win it for you too. But when you're evaluating guys like Christian McCaffrey versus Derrick Henry, I'm going to be on the CMC side as well there. Frank, I assume you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I'm taking CMC as well. I've kind of been fading Derrick Henry this year, like even taking a shot on someone like Joe Mixon over him or Najee Harris. Those are things that I've been doing so far. I just worry about the Titans offense too. There's just so many question marks with that team and the injury risk. Yeah, I've been fading Henry.
All right. So the last pick for Michael Florio, who can be found at Michael F. Florio, is none other than Michael. You have the floor.
Laviska Shenault Jr. for no other reason than I have Trevor Lawrence on my team. And I figured I was going to take Donovan Peoples-Jones there, but I have like 4 receivers already with his bye week. So I said, why not give Shenault one last chance and hope that, maybe he scores a touchdown or 2 and it helps me in a game with Trevor Lawrence.
A tradition like no other too, by the way. Laviska Shenault, I saw some tweets hyping him up. He's apparently doing well in the offseason. So, if nothing else, that seems like a yearly routine that we hear about Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, I mean, I like Laviska Shenault. I just don't think he was properly utilized. And frankly, when you're drafting Etienne at the top of the second round, you're kind of dismissing the idea of Laviska Shenault playing that dual role like he did at Colorado. So it's just the whole thing is very strange with Jacksonville. Obviously, Urban Meyer is out, so it's a little bit of a different ball game, so to speak. But yeah, the fact that Laviska has been marginalized, like just trade him to another team and see what another team can do with him. That's my advice. That's my sound advice for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah,
so
I think your point is well though. See, like why can't Deebo Samuel is a freak, and obviously we saw what he did last year, running back, wide receiver. But that's how Laviska Shenault should have been utilized. And last year I remember, he would get bounced around between outside receiver, slot receiver. So it's like this guy's still trying to figure out who he is as a player too. So he just was not utilized correctly. Hopefully Doug Peterson and the Jaguars can get him back on track.
Yeah, I mean, Doug Peterson, if he's anything, he's creative. So hopefully he'll get Laviska involved. And that honestly, when you consider Laviska, I mean, it does give a nod to Trevor Lawrence a little bit in terms of, he has a lot of weapons at his disposal. And with the new coaching staff and a year under his belt, he could just kind of fling it around a little bit, even to the running backs like Travis Etienne and have a great season. So who was Mr. Irrelevant? Did we see who the last player drafted was? We have, believe it or not, we have completed the 20-round, 12-team SUPERFLEX draft. And we don't need to necessarily see Mr. Irrelevant, but I do want to take, if we can, I want to take a look at our teams before.
It was Damian Williams with the Falcons.
Yeah, interesting. I don't mind that pick. Jontrell Hilliard went right before him, and Brian Edwards, who I was considering a few rounds ago for Atlanta, went third to last. So, Frank, is there a way to pull up maybe Florio's team and then our team and just kind of take a look at it?
Let's see if we can do that. I'm sure there is a way to do it. I don't, full transparency, I don't use Underdog much on the computer, but mostly on the phone. Yeah, I've got his team pulled up here so we can.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So Florio, what are your thoughts here?
First, I just looked at the, if you guys remember back at the start of the episode when I tried to join and I got put in a different league, I looked at that team and that team is awful. So I'm feeling much better about this team. I like this team a good amount. Like I like my quarterbacks. My approach in Superflex tends to be get like a quarterback in the first round, one of the elite guys, then wait a little bit and get an upside QB2, which is what I did here. I like the running backs that I was able to get. The depth guys, not so much, but the top 4 I'm a big fan of. And what I think really separates this team is the receiving core. Like my top 4 receivers, it's Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks, Kadarius Toney. I feel great about those 4.
Yeah, I love the receiver group that you have there. I mean, I like your whole team, of course. I like what you did at the tight end position as well. So, I mean, that's how a team is going to look in Superflex if you do wait a round or two on the quarterback. You're going to have a chance to inject your lineup with a top end wide receiver or a top end running back. So, can we pull up? And by the way, Floyd, did you? I'm trying to remember. I know our team with San Francisco, we tried to correlate both of our quarterbacks a little bit. Did you have an eye on that? Do you know off the top of your head if that's something you were able to do? Maybe some bringbacks in week 17.
So week 17, I wasn't eyeing like you guys were, but I did get the stacks going. I got Lawrence, Chenault, and Evan Ingram, and then Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert. So I'm always trying to get stacks. The week 17 approach is a very interesting one to me, though.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was something in like these bigger tournaments that when we talked to Chris Spags, it was definitely kind of like a new focus, not a new focus, but to the layperson. And I conceded last week, I'm not really like a best ball guy. I'm a DFS guy. I'm a redraft guy. So I was kind of learning. And Chris was like, week 17, that's when you're going to actually make the money in these huge tournaments where, everything gets filtered down to just, a handful of teams at the end. So when it came to our quarterback and receivers, we kind of did want to have that almost that DFS approach with having a stack like you did, but also potentially having a bring back if that game happens to explode. Frank, looking at our team, how do you feel like we did in that regard? Obviously, we do have the stacks. I do think we had some bringbacks though, right?
I don't think we wound up with any Raiders or Chiefs.
Oh, yeah. So I remember we tried to get some Raiders, but we kind of missed out a little bit on that.
Technically, we could have taken where we took Kittle. We could have taken Waller, and that still would have been a stack in that game. But either way, I'm fine having the 49ers stack. I think it started out well. I think things kind of went a little haywire when we got sniped a few times. Obviously, the Deshaun Watson pick is a complete disaster. But Russell Wilson and Trey Lance is very fun at quarterback. I love that. Yeah. Leonard Fournette, Zeke, Ken Walker, Chase Edmonds as our top 4 running backs. I feel very comfortable with that. Mark Ingram and Hassan Haskins as some late round flyers there. Wide receiver, would like to have a better wide receiver too, admittedly, but we've got Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, Jahan Dotson. We got Hamler to pair with Russell Wilson, and then a few late round flyers with Will Fuller, Byron Pringle. And we've got Kittle stacked up with Trey Lance. So I think it's interesting. I would have liked to get a few bringbacks, but you're kind of at the mercy of the draft with these best ball leagues, and it just didn't work out that well that way.
Yeah, and also at the mercy of where we were picking. I mean, obviously, I think if we were picking maybe closer to the front, the roster construction probably would have ended up being a little bit different. But yeah, I agree. The receiver core, especially since we're starting a handful of receivers each week, that's probably where our main weakness is. But listen, this is what's so cool about best ball, because 2 minutes after this show, we can go into another room and be like, all right, we're going to focus on receiver this time. Right. Right. Florio.
Yeah. As long as your team is better than the auto one that I have, I'm going to share this with you guys in private. Like, I don't even want anyone else to see this awful team. You guys could laugh at it.
Fair enough. So Florio, before we get out of here, obviously we know we can find you at Rotoballer, SiriusXM. Can you tell us, and on Twitter at Michael F. Florio, can you tell us where else we can find you, or maybe what you have coming up soon that everybody can see or hear from you?
Yeah, so right now I have a lot of content coming out with Rotoballer, and then shortly enough, gonna be going, July hits and at NFL Network, NFL Fantasy. That's where we really will start picking up. But right now, every week there, me and Marcus Grant on the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. So make sure to check that out. That's been a lot of fun this offseason, talking about all the news, but also just, having some fun, drafting some different things, stuff like that. So, but you said it, Twitter, at Michael F. Florio, that's the spot to get it all kind of in one.
And Frank, everybody knows where to find you, but I'm just curious, what do you got coming up? You got a baseball podcast tonight? What's going on fantasy baseball today?
Baseball every single day. FBT, we've got it Monday through Fridays on FBT and 5, our 5-minute podcast. We have that come out on Saturdays as well, where we cover the latest prospects. So lots of baseball content still going on, slowly ramping up into the football content as well, doing a bunch of these best ball drafts, and overall just doing a bunch of research in the offseason. So it's a busy time. getting married, baseball, football, everything's ramping up. It's a lot of fun. Mike, it's going to be great to see you in a couple of days. See ya. Hopefully I'll meet you in person one day too.
Yeah, soon enough. Well, that's going to do it for us on Fantasy Football Today DFS. We'll be seeing you next week. We are going to continue our offseason series highlighting DFS game theory, strategy, and player analysis, whether it's best ball, whether it's DFS, maybe just some redraft components. They're all kind of mixed in, right? So we'll see you next week for another offseason series. See you later.